Welcome back to my road to completion guide for Bloodborne. This is episode 21, and this begins our journey through the Chalice dungeons. Now, in order to create a Chalice dungeon, you need the Chalice, and then the correct amount of blood echoes and materials needed to create that Chalice dungeon. So you can see that we have 1,000 blood echoes. We also had 2 of the ritual blood number 1s. And of course we had the chalice. So that allows us to enter our first chalice dungeon. Now, the formula for getting through these chalice dungeons is simple and complex at the same time. It's simple because all you have to do is activate a floor switch. That will open up the boss door. You defeat the boss, you go deeper into the dungeon. Okay, so right now we're on layer number 1. If we find this boss and we defeat the boss, we're gonna be going into layer number 2. And that will of course keep going until you finish the entire dungeon. But here's the problem. There is a massive amount of enemies in these chalice dungeons. Now, of course, we're in the first chalice dungeon now. You can see there's a few enemies on the screen. Half of them don't even notice me. But as we open up new chalice dungeons, okay, we defeat more bosses, we get deeper into these layers. There's gonna be some rooms that have 15 plus enemies, and they're all gonna be trying to attack you at once. You're also going to have to deal with traps like the one you're seeing on screen right now, which is why I highly encourage you guys to safety save as much as possible as you're making your way through these chalice dungeons, okay? There's wall traps, floor traps, so you have to constantly be watching your step, making sure that you're checking out the environment, looking for traps while you're trying to deal with all the enemies on the screen. But that's not it. You also have to worry about navigation. These chalice dungeons are one big maze, so you're really gonna have to pay close attention to my gameplay and follow my steps exactly so you can make it through the chalice dungeons in the least amount of time. And that's the floor switch, by the way, that I was telling you guys about earlier. Now that it says unlocked on the screen, now we have access to the boss fight. Now you're about to see the biggest tip I can give you for getting through the chalice dungeons. Do not backtrack through the chalice dungeons. You guys are going to get confused. You're going to lose your way. Trust me. It's just better to use the bold hunter's mark, return to the previous lamp that you lit, and then of course you can either go back to the hunter's dream and buy items or whatever you need to do, or then you can just focus on where you need to go next in the chalice dungeon. Like for instance, this right here, this is the boss door that we unlocked earlier using the switch, and the door up ahead is going to be the actual boss fight. You can also see that I'm setting up a safety save before I have this boss fight. You definitely want to get in the habit of doing that because you have no idea which one of these bosses is going to give you trouble. Now, of course, we're early on in our chalice dungeon experience, so the bosses are going to be pretty easy. You can see here that I'm going to kill this boss in 2 hits. Because we're so strong, we've been leveling up the entire game. But as we continue, the bosses get tougher and tougher. It's going to take longer to kill them. It's going to take more shots to kill them. So you definitely want to make sure that you have those safety saves in play because you want to be able to fight those bosses quickly. You don't want to have to backtrack to the lamp every time, come back and pick up your blood echoes and all that stuff. So make sure you're setting up your safety saves. You can see on screen that we just hit layer 2, and of course we're going to repeat the steps we just did back in layer 1. We're going to activate the floor switch, find the boss door, defeat the boss, and continue. So that is the formula for getting through the chalice dungeons. Find and activate the floor switch, fight the boss, continue deeper into the chalice dungeon until there's no more bosses to defeat. Then we exit, create a new chalice dungeon, and repeat, okay? Now, there's going to be certain times where we have to deviate from that formula. We have to farm for a few items on the way. We also have to pick up some items in some chests. So I'm going to come back in with commentary once we get to those parts and explain exactly what we're doing. I'm also going to provide commentary on certain bosses that I feel like are going to give you guys a hard time. Luckily for us, most of the bosses that you're going to fight in the chalice dungeons, you've either had an encounter with before and you already know the strategy for defeating that particular type of enemy, or you're so over leveled that you're going to be able to kill the enemy so quick it's not going to pose that much of a threat to you. But for the rare bosses that I know are going to give you guys a hard time, I'm going to come back in, talk you through those fights step by step. Now let me go ahead and say this before I let you guys go. Some of you are going to love the chalice dungeons. You're going to have no problem getting through it. You're going to have fun. It's going to be a blast. But let me go ahead and tell you, many of you are going to absolutely hate the chalice dungeons. You have to push through. You cannot quit. Trust me. It's going to take you probably, I think my gameplay is about 3 hours. For some of you, it may take a little bit longer because you're not familiar with the game like I am. But you have to push through. I don't care if you set up a safety save every time you kill an enemy, every time you make a right turn. You know, maybe some of you are getting confused on the directions because I'm going left and right and I'm moving so fast. Guys, every time you make a left, safety save. You make a right, safety save. Then you never get lost. Follow it one direction at a time if you have to. It does not matter, guys. Nobody's keeping count of how many times you guys safety save. Use it to your advantage. You do not want to spend your Chalice Dungeon experience repeating steps. Trust me. For those of you who I know are going to hate this, you're not going to want to have to replay sections over, okay? So use your safety saves. So I wish all of you the best, and I'll talk to you later on in this episode. So if you remember, in order to create this Chalice dungeon, we had to have 2 Ritual Blood number 1. In order to create the next Chalice dungeon, we have to have 6 Ritual Blood number 2. So the goal is to make it to the bottom of these steps. You can always kill these enemies if they're crowding up on you. Go ahead and exit the game, set up a safety save, and then as soon as you spawn back in, you want to kill this enemy until he drops a Ritual Blood 2. You guys might have to load up that safety save a few times, but eventually this enemy will drop a Ritual Blood 2. Then head upstairs and take a left. You'll find your next Ritual Blood number 2 on the corpse. Then there's going to be a corpse in front of the fountain, and that's going to be your 3rd Ritual Blood number 2. Now we want to find and activate the floor switch so we have access to the boss. The problem is it's guarded by an enemy. Now we need to kill this enemy in order to pick up the Ritual Blood number 2, okay? So what you can do is you can activate the floor switch, set up a safety save, and when you load back in, the enemy will still be alive. You can kill the enemy. If he drops a gem or blood vials or something like that, load back up your safety save. Keep killing this enemy until you get the Ritual Blood number 2, and that should give you guys a total of 4. And there it is, your Ritual Blood number 2. Now you want to use your Bold Hunter's Mark to return to the previous lamp. And then if you remember that first enemy that we were trying to get Ritual Blood 2s off of at the bottom of the stairs in that courtyard area, we're going to do the same thing, guys, except this time we need 2 Ritual Blood 2. So we're going to run up here, set up a safety save, load back in as many times as we need to for this enemy to drop 1 Ritual Blood number 2. Then we're going to use a Bold Hunter's Mark. This will spawn the enemy back into the area. We're going to run back to the bottom of the stairs and do the same thing. Set up a safety save, load back in as many times as we need to, kill the enemy again. You're going to pick up another Ritual Blood number 2, and that should give you a total of 6 Ritual Blood number 2. After you collect all 6, go ahead and fight the boss, and that's going to wrap up this Chalice dungeon, and I'll talk to you guys once we get back to the Hunter's Dream. So the only thing that we have to do is repair our hunter axe. I think my durability at this point was like 158. We just don't want that to get too low. So repair weapons, hunter axe, you can see, yeah, 158. Make sure that you guys repair that, and then we're going to create another chalice dungeon. Now you have to make sure that you guys choose the correct chalice, okay? It can be a little bit confusing. Go to the second altar, chalice ritual. See the third one, the one that says central? That's the one that you guys want. It's going to cost you 1,800 blood echoes and the 6 ritual blood number 2 that we just farmed for. Now I'm going to show you here that just in case you need some blood echoes at this point, you should have 1,800, but if you don't, you can just come over here and sell some items at the Bath Messengers. You know, things like Quicksilver bullets, Madman's knowledge, stuff like that, just to be able to give you a boost in blood echoes. That'll come in handy once we start making other chalice dungeons that require a ton of blood echoes. You can always sell things off. You don't have to go out and necessarily farm for the blood echoes. Now another reason why you want to sell items is because you need more bold hunter's mark. Remember, we're not going to be backtracking through the chalice dungeons. We want to be able to activate that floor switch or pick up an item or open up a chest or whatever and then use that bold hunter's mark so we don't have to backtrack. So make sure that you stock up on those before you enter the second chalice dungeon. So once you make it to layer 3, we need to farm for more ritual bloods. This time it's going to be ritual blood number 3, and we need a total of 9 of those to be able to unlock another chalice dungeon later on. You can see that we're killing the same enemy that we killed before to pick up the ritual blood 2s, but here's the thing, there's more than one enemy in this room. I want you to notice the floor switch. It's kind of hard to see, it really blends in. I think I hit it with my hunter axe. It's right there. As soon as you guys walk across that floor switch, you will spawn in 2 more enemies. Now you're also going to spawn in 4 red enemies, which seem very tough to kill, but if you guys extend the hunter axe and hit L2, you'll do that sweeping attack and you can usually get rid of them fairly easy. Make sure you pick up the items though that the enemies with the bags drop, because that's where you're going to be getting the ritual blood number 3. Of course, when you're done, go ahead and use one of your bold hunter's marks. You can return to the previous lamp. That will reset all the enemies. You can come back and repeat this as many times as you need to. Just make sure that when it's all said and done, you guys have 9 of the ritual blood number 3. So once you hit layer 2, we need to find more of those enemies with the bags on their back, because they're going to drop ritual blood number 4, and we need a total of 18 of those so we can unlock 2 chalice dungeons later on in the run. Now this time around, we do not have to set up a safety save before we fight these 2 enemies. I feel like you're going to spend just as much time in your dashboard setting and loading up safety saves than just running from the lamp. You can see here, guys, as soon as you climb this ladder and you look to the left, the enemy's going to be right in front of you. So it's really not that long of a run to have to make. Just remember, you want to use your bold hunter's mark so you can return back to the lamp and these enemies will be respawned. After you collect 18 of the ritual blood number 4, we can continue with the run.
Gammon awake, go on, good. Very, let me stand. Farewell, good.
The next item that we need is called the Workshop Haze Extractor. What we can do back at the workbench at the Hunter's Dream is we can use this item to extract haze from items that we have in our inventory. And we need a certain amount of haze to be able to unlock another chalice dungeon later on in the run, which is why we have to make sure we grab this item. So in my opinion, this is going to be the first true challenging boss fight of the Chalice Dungeon. So I want to make sure I come in here and walk you guys through this, okay? So I'm going to be showing you 2 methods for defeating this boss. So the first method is to be super aggressive and to trade damage with the boss. Notice how much health the boss just took off, guys, with 1 hit. It almost killed me. So this boss can definitely 2-shot kill you. But remember, you have that rally potential. So if you take a shot, notice I just took a shot there, you did half health. But when I did my Hunter Axe Extended, my charged R2, I got some of the health back. Yes, he hit me again, but it was not enough to kill me. So by trading damage, you're able to defeat this boss a lot quicker than in method number 2. So method number 2 is a counterattack strategy. So you have to wait for the boss to do certain attacks before you can hit him. But if you can wait, if you're patient enough, you can get those hits in and avoid damage at the same time. Notice he did the swipe with his left hand. As soon as he was done, he doesn't recover very quickly. So I was able to run up there using my O button, make sure you're sprinting, and then just hit the R2 button with the Hunter Axe Extended and do some damage. Now, as the fight progresses, his moveset changes, but your strategy remains the same. You're just waiting for him to do an attack where he doesn't recover quickly. When you see that opening, sprint by holding the O button, Hunter Axe is extended, hit up the R2, do some damage, spam the O button, get out of there, repeat until the boss is dead. Now, some of you will pick up the Blood Gem Master Trophy after defeating Rom, which is what happens in my gameplay. But I can tell you that during my practice attempts, I didn't always get the Blood Gem Master Trophy after defeating Rom. I ended up having to defeat the next boss in this Chalice dungeon, which is the Bloodletting Beast, in order to pick up that trophy. The reason why this happens is because the blood gems these bosses drop are random. So it depends on the gem they drop and the value of that gem that determines whether you get the trophy or not. So just keep following the guide. If you don't get that trophy here, you will eventually get that trophy at some point in the Chalice dungeons. In my practice, it's always been either Rom or the Bloodletting Beast.
Gammon away. Go. Very well, let me. Farewell, good hunter. May you find your...
This is another boss that I think is going to give you guys some trouble, so let me talk you through it, okay? Rule number one, Do not lock on. Remember, anytime you're locked on to an enemy in this game, you run slower. So you want to be able to hold down the O button and sprint as fast as possible in between the legs of this enemy. Now, this doesn't work 100% of the time. He does have some attacks that will hit you when you're trying to run in between his legs. It's not a problem. If he hits you, back away, heal when you need to. Notice he misses me here. Boom, there's some damage. I'm also going to charge the R2 and try to hit him in the face, because every time you hit him, he tends to want to jump back over your head and get advantage play on you. When he does, his face is exposed. So if you feel comfortable with the game, you can charge the R2. If you spin the axe around at just the right time, you can hit him in the face. It does a lot of damage and can possibly stagger the boss. Now, if you don't feel comfortable charging the R2 and trying to hit him in the face, then don't, guys. Reset the fight every time you do damage. Notice I'm just getting my distance. I'm not locked on. Here's some damage right here. That time I got lucky to hit him in the face because he decided to back jump. Boom, see, there's some more damage. And then you have the option at that point, right? You can charge the R2, try to get more damage, or back away, okay? So if you feel confident with the game, be aggressive. If you don't, back away. And I think in a second I'm going to be able to connect with the charged R2. I think I have to dodge a few of these attacks. I tried to show you a lot in this boss fight to give you guys as much help as possible. Just dodging it. Yeah, right here. I'm going to go in, get some damage. And watch, I'm going to immediately charge the R2. He jumps. When he does, boom, I connect with the face. And you guys can get a visual attack. It does a lot of damage. Now, for those of you who did not get the Blood Gem Master trophy after defeating Rom, you will pick that trophy up after defeating the Bloodletting Beast, okay? These two bosses have various blood gems that they drop, and that will, of course, determine when you guys pop your trophy. But in all my practice attempts, I was able to pick up the Blood Gem Master trophy either after defeating Rom or after defeating the Bloodletting Beast. Now, if for whatever reason you still don't have the Blood Gem Master trophy after defeating the Bloodletting Beast and Rom, continue to play through the Chalice dungeons. One of the bosses should drop a gem that's high enough in value to give you that trophy. But just in case you still don't have it after you get through all of the Chalice dungeons, let me know and I'll find out where you can pick that up in the game. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. See you in the next one. Be good.